You can find your way to a seat. We can get started this morning. It is morning still. It's not afternoon anyway. And there are a number of things to sign up for in the coming weeks. Next Friday, we will be here for a Thanksgiving lunch, all prepared by our kitchen with sure thing. Well, that I can't control any of that. So make sure that you sign up if you haven't, and then we're off the next Friday because of Thanksgiving, and then the next Friday. The next Friday we're off, and then the next Friday we're headed to the Holocaust Museum. And the sign-ups are there. Make sure that you sign up. And then we have the Cox Family Singers coming for our Christmas party, and we'll have some fun stuff included in our Christmas celebration. One of the surveys said, we like the games. So whoever that was, you can thank them for the fun stuff that I'm planning for our Christmas party. Say what? Yes, and we will have Santa and Mrs. Claus here if you want to get a picture with Santa and Mrs. Claus. So it'll be a fun Christmas party. To make sure that you do sign up for what's coming up towards the end of the month and into December. We are working with PCHAS to provide special gifts to the folks that live in the individual units. This didn't go over. There was some concern about giving people vacuum cleaners for Christmas. But this is PCHAS asked for that, and it's something that they do need. And so how many would like to receive a vacuum cleaner for Christmas? See, there you go, there you go. Probably not the best gift for a husband to give a wife. The only gift to give a wife. So we will be participating in that, and then there's also one individual who's aging out of PCHAS, and we'll be kind of doing like an angel tree gift for that person, and we'll take care. We'll have all that out next week. Well, today we do have. We have Alex Lopez, who is Assistant City Manager, and we kind of took the long way around to get her. We had Eric Walsh, who is her boss, I guess, and they told me that he could only get here at 11:30. And I said, okay, well, let's do that, and we'll only be here till 11:30. And then his admin said, well, can he come at noon? And I'm like, no, that's too late for us. But we would be happy to receive an assistant city manager, because we had such a good experience with the one that we had last year. And I knew her name when I was talking to Lori Houston, and we enjoyed our time with her. So I expect that we will enjoy our time with Alex today, and welcome, and we're glad you can be with us.
Thank you, and I'm actually really excited to be here. Otherwise, I'd be on another conference call with another group of people, and I'd much rather be talking to you guys about a lot of what we do. So I'll start by saying I am one of the assistant city managers. There's a handful of us. Y'all met Lori last year. The group of departments, the portfolio that I specifically work with, includes our economic development department, which is where I've spent most of my time with the city. I've been with the city right around 18 years now. So I've worked with that department. I also currently work with our workforce development work. If y'all have heard of the Ready to Work initiative, that's part of the work that I helped launch and now continue to oversee. I also work with the department that oversees the convention and sports facilities. So the Alamo Dome, our convention center, making sure that those stay up to date and that lots of visitors want to come and spend time and money there. And then our pre-K for SA initiative. So those are the departments that I get to work with firsthand. But overall, we're really a team. And we really do support our city manager in seeing how we can best coordinate efforts and make sure that we're understanding the concerns from our residents and able to address those and implementing the policies that City Council takes action on and the decisions that they make. So today, I'm going to start off by talking a little bit about budget, because at the end of the day, that's how we do so much of what we do because of the resources that are allocated. So our fiscal year, our budget year starts October 1, and a lot of the decisions, a lot of the research that goes into developing that budget happens over the summer. So what we realized as we started getting into that research is that our revenues have kind of gone back to normal. During the pandemic, we were seeing our revenues grow by about 7% each year. That's not happening anymore. Our revenue growth is now about half of that. And what we also saw was that our expenses, like all of you are probably experiencing, our expenses are increasing. Salaries are going up. You know, just the cost of doing the same level of work has increased. So that reality forced us to really take a look at how we were spending our dollars, making sure that they still aligned with the priorities of our city council and our residents. And they go through a process in April to really tell us these are our goals for next year. So when the staff goes away during the summer and tries to work on what that budget allocation should look like, it's informed by what City Council has told us early on in April and May. So we did that. We got their feedback. We came back in May and gave them a trial budget to kind of see, does this work? What are we missing? What do we need to keep working on? And then again, we go away and we work pretty intensely over the summer. And what we came up with was a nearly $4 billion budget. It's about $4 million shy of that. That includes 3 different funds. We have the general fund, we have restricted funds like development services and the airport where we can only spend the money on those particular areas. We've got a capital budget, all of the construction, roads, buildings, that's part of that portfolio as well. And then we've got the other revenue sources, smaller revenue sources as well. And then when you think of when you think of how we collect revenue or what are our revenue sources, what I mentioned were how we spend it, how we make it, it's really 4 buckets. We've got property tax, we've got sales tax, we've got CPS revenues, and then we've got all the other little fees and revenue sources that kind of fall into a smaller bucket. So collectively, that was the nearly $4 billion that we needed to make sure that we properly allocated to do all the things that we need to do. So part of what we did this year, we really needed to understand to manage. We needed to manage a lot of expenses that had significantly increased. But one of the things that was very important for us was to make sure that the staff that do a lot of this hard work is properly compensated. So in that budget, about $69 million of it was allocated for, some of it was for employee compensation, well, a large part of it. We have 65 more officers, police officers. We've got another 15 firefighters. And then 36 additional positions in our animal care services department, which was very much seen as a priority based on community feedback that we received. So we allocated significantly more resources. This is probably the third year where we've really increased the resource allocation to this department because of the work that we know that needs to be happening in our neighborhoods and in our community. I'm trying to think of specific things that I should highlight. Street maintenance. We know that that's really important. So our budget for street maintenance is $122 million. And that's $6 million more. Again, we didn't have a lot of extra money to be putting into some of these categories, but we knew that was one where costs are just increasing. So we did allocate additional resources there. In last year, we completed nearly 1,500 capital projects. And for fiscal year 25, for this year, we're planning to do about 1,600. So it's a little bit more work, but again, we know that that's important work, and that is what you see. That is very much a priority. So that's where we tend to spend our resources. Something, just a little bit of an inside scoop in here, we track how our streets, the conditions of our streets. And we'd been using a system that kind of told us, it rated the streets between A and F, just like school. You know, F is failing and improves based on those letters. This past year, we changed the technology that's used to measure the condition of those streets. And so when we got the scores back, it was completely different. And we kind of had to take some time to understand, okay, what changed? Well, it was the technology that changed. From when we started doing this, 10 years ago, the technology has substantially improved. And while it's great because like all of our devices have so much better resolution and our cameras on our phones are so much better, so are the devices that are measuring the pavement conditions. So it's not necessarily one of those situations where it's better not to know. We know that they're not maybe as good as we thought they were a couple years ago, but now we know. And so we're definitely approaching that with this information to understand, okay, there's absolutely more work we need to do. So that was an interesting finding over the summer that we're like, wait a minute, we spent so much more money and the streets are not getting better. We don't understand. So really getting to the bottom of how that happened was important for us. Sidewalks, $21.5 million on sidewalks. And we have, last year, we fixed about 16 and a half miles of sidewalks. And for this current year, our goal is nearly 16 miles again of repairing sidewalks. We're also going to be building new ones. We've got about 27, 28 miles planned of new sidewalks. And we know there's still over 1,000, I think it's about 1,400 miles of sidewalk gaps that we know of. We're trying our best to keep chipping away at that every year, both repairing what's there because we know that's important, but then also adding to that network. Police, the budget for police is right around $604 million, and that is about 5.5% higher than the year before. We added 100 officers last year, and I mentioned we're going to be adding some this year as well. And the objective there is to try to change the amount of time that our police officers are spending from a proactive, more kind of being out there versus responding to specific calls. If we have more resources, if we have more officers, we can use them in a more proactive way while still addressing the responsive needs that we need to be responding to. So that's the approach that we're trying to take. And we're trying to eventually get to a distribution of 60% of an officer's time being on proactive patrol and 40% of it responding to 911 calls. So that's what we're trying to balance out in the investments that we're making in the police department. We're going to keep 5 more cadet classes So that will help us graduate 255 more officers for next year, both for the new positions that we're creating and to fill some of the retirements that are going to be taking place. One of the other items I'll mention is homelessness prevention. We're investing $44 million in homelessness prevention services and outreach and sheltering, both emergency shelters and low barrier shelters, into permanent supportive housing and rehousing and abatement of properties. So our point in time count for January of this year was 888 unsheltered individuals. And our goal for fiscal year, for last year, was to shelter 400 and to clean up 700 encampments. And our goal is to do that, is to clean up encampments within 14 days of when they're reported. My notes just went away. There they are. See, I think I was talking about encampments. So for this year, our goal is to continue to do those encampment cleanups, 500 for this year. And again, shooting for that 14-day turnaround. We know that there's a combination of, providing services, making individuals aware of the resources available, but then staying on top of where we see encampments happening and being timely to them as we're notified of them. So that is our approach to this situation, along with the millions of dollars that we're investing into outreach and permanent supportive housing and the homeless prevention services that we know are critical to have an upstream approach to this issue, including affordable housing. So in this year's budget, we're investing $35.5 million from our general fund and from grants into permanent supportive housing, or into housing and affordable housing options. Our goal is to support 1,483 families with housing stability and homelessness prevention services, along with improving our customer service. So we want to assist 455 households with minor repair and to their homes, and then another 52 with more major repair, because we know that helping somebody stay in their home is the best way to prevent homelessness. So we want to try to help individuals that have issues in their homes to try to make sure that they can stay there safely with those repairs. I mentioned one of the departments that I work with specifically is our economic development department, and a lot of the work that we've done this past year and will continue to do is about small business support. We're hearing a lot about small businesses, since the pandemic, but while it may have the impact to them has definitely, changed at this point, we're still seeing a lot of them struggling. And at the risk of getting really, really geeky here, but I heard y'all like data, small businesses were really struggling with borrowing money. The interest rates were just way too high. So even if they had a great business plan and great opportunities, they couldn't grow. So we're hoping that's changing. And from our perspective, we're here to support with resources, with assistance, with that, helping somebody navigate through some of the systems that are out there. And then from a very, very real perspective, I mentioned how much money we're spending on construction. We know that also impacts businesses along those routes. Y'all heard all, I'm sure, experiencing Broadway here. So it's important for us to honor the commitments as far as the public infrastructure. We know those are important. They need to happen. But we need to try to mitigate the impact to those businesses, to the neighborhoods that we're making those investments into. So we have a construction mitigation program for small businesses to make them aware of some of the things that they could be doing while the construction is happening. If they need to fix their kitchen, if they need to be doing some painting, let's do it when we know that there's going to be some pretty significant construction work happening. If it's about signage and making sure that your customers know how to still get to you, then we can help pay for some signs to kind of orient their customers as well. We're just also doing grants. our city council has really prioritized that we provide some sort of revenue because of the impact that we're having on their ability to generate revenue. And when we do that, there is a process. They have to show us how they've been impacted. But at the end of the day, we're realizing that these improvements are critical, but we need to be cognizant of the impact that we're having to businesses and on those streets as well. I'll shift away from budget for a little bit and just talk about how we really do take the feedback from our residents very intentionally. And we actually do a survey every 2 years to just let us know how are we doing. And the last time we did it, I think it was in 2022, 2023, our satisfaction rate from residents was 87%. So we take great pride in that, and we know that the only way we maintain that is if we continue to get feedback so that we know that we're addressing those needs specifically. I'll shift to the airport. We're pretty excited about what's happening out at the airport. Lots of change coming. We've got a new terminal. There's going to be new gates. There's a new ground transportation center, kind of where you actually get onto the plane from the tarmac. It's new opportunities. It's new, creating more flight opportunities, more things for our residents to experience when you want to go somewhere else, but then also to open up San Antonio to visitors and business that are interested in coming to see us and invest here in San Antonio. Our new facility, the new terminal, the ground load facility, we're looking at that opening up later this year. And I heard yesterday that we're going to be doing the groundbreaking for the new terminal also pretty soon. So that is exciting. Yesterday, City Council also got briefed on new restaurants and retail options that we're proposing for the airport. They haven't voted on that yet. That's coming in a few weeks. But you're going to be seeing some different restaurants out there. You're going to be seeing some different shopping experiences when you're landing or when you're flying out. And that's important because we want to make sure that we're responsive, again, to both of those populations, people coming into San Antonio, but then also to our residents, because that is still our airport as well. A little bit more on economic development. This past year has been really exciting. We've made some pretty significant announcements. I think it was almost 2 years ago now that we announced JCB. It's a British manufacturer of heavy equipment like big cranes and a lot of the earth-moving equipment. They're going to be hiring 1,500 people. They're building a huge operation down on the south side. And then also Toyota's expanding again. And so that was another 400 jobs that they're going to be adding down there. And, when they came, they have a pretty significant footprint. And within that space, they have the room to grow. So it's really about just making sure that this remains a place where they will do that kind of growth. They have the option to invest all over the world, and they've got some pretty significant investments here in the United States. We also always want to be competitive. And if they're looking at making a change, we want to make sure that San Antonio stays at the top of their list. So those are some of the economic development projects that we've been working on. I mentioned from a small business perspective, making sure that we're aware of the impact that we're having when it comes to construction, when we're buying things. We buy everything from, contractors to build us a road, books at the library, we buy all sorts of things. And it's important for us to take into consideration if there's any small businesses, minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses here in San Antonio that can sell us that. Because it helps create the circular economy. Your taxes, all these revenues can get reinvested back into our businesses if we can be intentional about how we spend these dollars. So we take a lot of energy and a lot of time to make sure that if there is somebody here that can sell it, that they're aware of it and that they submit and respond. And ultimately, it's still a competitive process, but we want to make sure they know. I'll close out with just a little bit of context about, with Monday being Veterans Day and us being Military City USA, it's really important for us that we be intentional about the work that we do with veterans. And so we actually have a commission on Veterans Affairs. We have every council member and the mayor appoints a representative to this commission, and they hear issues. They want to make sure that what veterans in our community are heard and have that direct connection to what we need to know on the staff side and on the elected official side to make sure if there's policies, if there's programs that we could be implementing to better support our veterans community, that we do so. And so one of those was our Ready to Work initiative. It was because the sales tax is collected within the city of San Antonio city limits. It was limited to participants within the city of San Antonio. But we were hearing from our military installations and from veterans that, they have spouses that live, within the installations that may not necessarily qualify because of that eligibility criteria. So we actually opened it up. Anybody who is a veteran, exiting the military, or connected, spouses, children that are here, they can qualify for our job training program as well. We thought that was an important connection to make with our military. We have a program called Hiring Our Heroes, and it's a spouse employment program because we are very proud of how many active military we have in this community, and we know that those spouses also need to be employed. So within the city organization, we provide opportunities, fellowships, internships, so they can kind of understand what it's like to work with the city. And then we encourage local employers, local companies to also make sure that they're doing their part to hire the spouses of the thousands and thousands of active military individuals that we have in San Antonio. So I know I talked a lot already, so I will stop doing that. I will appreciate the invitation, and I'm available for any questions. I hopefully have answers, but if I don't, I can get them back to you. Thank you so much. Yes. Yes. Yes, sir. Absolutely. There's new city streets, but there's also we have a lot of streets already. So the maintenance of those streets is significant. I think it's a struggle already to coordinate our own construction. And I think downtown is a perfect example of that. There's a lot of investment that needed to happen there, and a lot of it is happening at the same time. Layer on some highways, 1604 and I-10. If we even attempt to make any kind of improvements out there right now, that's already going to be significantly impacted by what TxDOT is doing on the highways. We need it. We need it. We want to address some of the traffic, but it takes a lot of coordination to make sure that if we already know that there's a pretty significant project happening, how do we time our work to we don't want to delay it forever, but we need to be mindful and have some very, very intentional coordination with TxDOT for some of the things that they have planned as well. Yes, ma'am. Yes, so we're excited about the way that program and that initiative kind of came together, because it's important that we balance the investment. I mentioned, like, I'm on the economic development side. I'm also on the convention and sports facility side. so I'm part of the team that negotiates the lease out at Wolf Stadium. And we've known how long the previous ownership did not invest in that stadium. And so it was important for us to make sure that we were working with a group that was going to put their money into this project. And that's what we feel we've achieved. And that's the contract that we have in place. They need to put this money into that development to make sure that it generates the revenue that they're going to need to fund the stadium as well. I think it's a different model. It's not the city putting their money up front. It's really private development investing into the community to say, yes, we want to build this, and that's how we'll generate this revenue. So we're excited about it. Yes, we're glad. Yes. $2025. Yes, I can tell you they're back in town next week. Every month since June, we've had NCAA officials coming in town, looking at downtown, looking at the Alamo Dome, at the convention center, making sure that it meets the specifications that they're looking for. And we are very excited. There's a big music festival that happens. That's going to be in Hemisphere Park again. We've got all sorts of events. I know just about a month ago we had the launch to a reading challenge for third graders between then and all the way up to the Final Four, just trying to encourage more reading. The NCAA gets very involved in the communities where the Final Four is happening. So they've had lots of different events already, and they're going to continue to do that. They want to be very active. From our perspective, we needed to make sure that the facilities were ready. Or maybe it's just that hat that I wear, that I wanted to make sure that the facilities were not just adequate, but that they provide a very, very rewarding experience, both for all of the visitors that we're going to have, for the families of those athletes. This is a huge, huge accomplishment to make it to the Final Four. So we want to make sure it's something that they're really excited about. But yes, late April, first weekend of May, or late March, first weekend of April, it's going to be a fun time here. And we just heard about a month ago, we were notified that we will be hosting the Women's Volleyball Championship, which if any of y'all have heard how popular women's volleyball has become, we're going to be playing a volleyball game in the middle of the Alamo Dome, like we do a basketball. Like, that's how popular these games have become. So we're going to be hosting that championship in 2026 as well. '25. It's going to be fun, and it's the same weekend of the Valero Texas Open. So just heads up, we're going to have a lot of people in town.
Other questions? My mic is working now.
I want you to know that you mentioned about the police graduations are becoming more. I happen to be very supportive of our police here. They keep just as an example, I had an alarm go off in my home. I was the one that caused it. I was outside and opened the wrong door, and when I did, the alarm went off, and I didn't know about it for about 20 minutes. Anyway, when I got into the house, it went buzz, buzz, buzz. So I called my company, and I told them, I said, I'm fine, there's nothing wrong, don't call the police. They had. So I said, call them back. And about 2 hours later, the company actually called them, but they didn't get the message sent to the officers. I got 2 young police officers at my door. Very nice. I don't think they've been on the force very long, very polite, and I talked to them for a little bit and let them know, that we're appreciative of them. And every time I go around, we've got a good police force in this town. And I want you to know that.
Thank you, sir.
Other questions? Well, thank you, Alex, for being with us. I do have a token of
Oh,
appreciation.
my goodness.
We want to give this to you. And it's probably the last one. You'll be the last one to receive this. It's a history of our church for the 150 years. And we're well beyond that now, what, 170 something? 78? And then also a American flag pin with our logo on it.
Yes.
So you can wear it, and if you're in press conferences, we'll be watching for it.
You'll see it. You will notice it. Thank you so
But
much.
thank you for being here. I know you have to go, and we're just so glad you could be here.
Thank you.
Well, one thing that we want to do before lunch, this is the closest Keys meeting to Veterans Day. Veterans Day is Monday, and I hope you noticed the flags on the sidewalk. That was for your benefit, your honor, appreciation of all of our veterans, and that's just been kind of a nice touch that we've done over the last couple of years. We now have a little video presentation with pictures and music, and then we have a presentation for you. And we do want to honor all of you who have served. If you're a veteran, please stand where you are so that we can recognize you. Sure, you want to come up here and we'll get a picture? Coming down front, we'll get a picture. Come down front here and we'll get a picture. Nona wants a picture. And we always do what Nona wants. How you doing, bud? Good to see you. Let's pull this out of the way. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, I do have little tokens of appreciation, but they have collected in my office over the years, and I didn't want to spend the money to get new ones, and I hope that you don't take that personally. But it wasn't within my budget to do that. But we do have, I have the thing to wear around your neck, I have pins, and I have a coin, and I do have some back there. You can take a look at them and determine which one you didn't get, which Veterans Day you weren't here for. And I also have the American flags with the Keys logo on it, if you would prefer that. So you get your choice of trophy for this Veterans Day, and I hope you don't take that like I didn't care. I do care. I do appreciate. My dad was a World War II vet, and he instilled in me an appreciation for our armed forces. And I think I've shared before that I was at every Memorial Day, Veterans Day, whatever parade was going on in downtown Wilmington, we were there. And we even drove by the encampment during the struggles in the 60s when there were riots going on in the city. We went down to see where the National Guard were encamped. And so my dad instilled in me appreciation for those who have served. And he served in Bora Bora in the South Pacific and talked about it all the time. Had an impact on him. I'm sure that your service has had an impact on all of you, and I've enjoyed hearing some of your stories. So thank you for your service, and I hope that you have felt honored today. Let me pray. Father, we're thankful for our time together. We're thankful for what's happening in our city. We're thankful for what we can do. Thankful for understanding some things that are on the docket. But we thank you for sure for these men and others who have given part of their lives to protecting our country. And we're thankful for the opportunity that we have to say thank you, and we lift them up to you and pray for your grace and peace in their lives. We're thankful that you brought them home, that you have used them in our lives to remind us that freedom is not free. We pray that you be with us today around these tables as we enjoy our lunch, and thank you for the time that we have to spend together. Pray that our fellowship would be sweet. We're thankful for this food, for those who have prepared it, and for those that will serve it, and just go before us today and help us to know that you are in control. And thank you for the way that you work in our lives each day. In Jesus' name, amen.